what is an intimacy expert?
Okay, so I categorize it that way because I'm an intimacy coach and an intimacy coordinator. Okay. So the difference between those two in the industry, the intimacy coach would be the person to create chemistry on set. With the intimacy coordinator position, you really try to keep everything neutral and professional so that nothing can be misconstrued.
You know, these actors and actresses, like, they really do an amazing job at making it feel
real.
So real and believable. It's like, I know for a fact the tip done slid in or something. I'm asking what they asking. But I got text messages in my phone. They were like, bro, you got to ask this. Have y'all ever had a squirter?
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
Welcome to Relationships Matter. I'm Chanel Scott.
And I am Josh Powell.
And guys, before we even start the show, I want you to go ahead and like, subscribe, and share Relationships Matter podcast. Don't shack up with us. Go ahead and join us. So, Miss Nevaina Rhodes, we have here today. She is an intimacy expert, actress of major motion picture films. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Okay.
That'll work. I've done some television series too, but we'll go with the major motion picture.
No, we're going to talk about all of that. So as we get started with the conversation, I want you to talk to us about what is an intimacy expert.
Okay, so I categorize it that way because I'm an intimacy coach and an intimacy coordinator. Okay. So the difference between those two in the industry, the intimacy coach would be the person to create chemistry on set or to choreograph the love scenes and all the steaming. The intimacy coordinator makes sure that those scenes don't go too far, that everybody feels safe, everyone is in consent. Intimacy coordinator is a new position. It's only been maybe 5 to 7 years, and it was the industry's response to the Me Too dynamic. So that we can make sure that, you know, it does not go too far. So one of them, you know, I'm making the intimacy roll. The other one, I'm making the intimacy hold. So I do like that.
So you're creating this chemistry between the two people.
Right, as an intimacy coach.
As an intimacy coach.
And then as an intimacy coordinator, I just make sure the actors feel safe.
Have you had moments where it went too far?
Well, fortunately, I was able to create culture on set before it went too far. Okay. So I did have a particular project where it was going to be basically full nudity. And in that, you wear like pasties. So it's like little stickers on all your goody parts. And the actress had expressed to me that the actor was kind of sharing his bravado. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this scene all day. I'm gonna make it take a long time, all of that. So before we shot the scene, I just did a culture statement. You know, this is art, this is our profession, and you don't want what you say to be taken the wrong way. So it's better to keep all conversations specific to the work. And then I gave that example, you know, just to let you know that sometimes we can say things trying to ease the nerves and it doesn't land well. And like one person might say, oh, you look good in that bikini. And the actress is like, oh, thank you. Another person say it and it makes her feel grimy in some way, right? So with the intimacy coordinator position, you really try to keep everything neutral and professional so that nothing can be misconstrued.
In a moment where things might not feel as safe, like, is there a word? Is there, like, how do you go about keeping the actress and the actor, you know, in a professional manner.
Yeah, so usually I'll give hand signals. So I'm like, good. And if something is wrong, they give me the
they'll
fist
give
and
you
I
the
need
okay.
power. We got to get in here, right? So, and that way too, we can try to save the take versus breaking character or whatever, because you still might get some good stuff for camera.
Right.
But that also means that I need to come in, touch base, find out what's going on.
Do y'all do like a form of therapy? I don't know, because I'm thinking like, right, you're even though it's work,
Yes.
but these actors and actresses, like, they really do an amazing job at making it feel
Real.
so real and
Yes.
believable. It's like, I know for a fact the tip done slid in or something. Ain't no way, right? But is there something that goes into, right? Because the people that watch this, there are some people that get hate. The fans are like really targeting certain people. Like I remember when we had Crystal on, and she was talking about like they was really on her neck when it comes to Duvall. You know what I mean? Like so. How do you?
And she was getting backlash because of his real life wife, and then how she's playing. Is that what the backlash?
They was taking her on camera and like, they definitely got some, going on. So I'm just asking for you, like, is there any other type of prep work outside of, the comments, or just kind of putting disclaimers out there? Like, do people come to you to have like different kind of conversations to mentally or emotionally be in the right place?
Yes. So an intimacy coordinator not only supports in terms of sexual scenes, but I've been called for rape scenes, for domestic violence scenes, and some other ones that don't fall necessarily into the category of sex per se, but they have an element of emotional vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And so I do exercises, or I have conversations to help the actors recover. So for example, as an actress myself, I know some of these techniques. We have what's called a feel-good moment. And it is almost like a Polaroid picture from your life that every time you think about it, it just makes you feel good, right? So one of them is like the picture you shared with me when we were working on our project of you holding your daughter, I think it was.
Yeah.
And just that picture just made me smile. So it might be that you keep that image in your mind.
Gotcha.
So after you do whatever the scene is and you're emotionally, and then the director says, cut, back to one, you have that in your mind to reset. Right? So we use that similarly for the actor personally. Bring yourself back to a space of balance. Also breath. Whenever we're in some kind of emotionally volatile or frustrating or blah, 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 your breath gets shallow. So just deep breathing helps the person to release whatever that is, and then we can move forward. Right? And then when you're talking about the tip slip, so usually you have what we call a surfboard, or you have sheets, and I have to wrap the sheet around so that it appears like they're fully naked to the camera. But in reality, there's some barrier, as slight as it may be. There's some barrier from the private parts, but we do have moments where,
ain't no way. I respect y'all gangster, because listen, the way I'm wired over here, ain't no way.
And that's the thing. Like, I have got, I talk to my guy actors, and I say, if you need a minute to get yourself back to, let me know, because nature gonna do what nature does.
Right.
But typically, you got all these people. You got gaffers, you got grips, you got folk with lighting, you got the boom guy just sitting right there looking at you too. So your whole performance mode is usually in a different place than in personal interaction, right? So.
Hey. I'm gonna sit up so I can have a confession with you.
Okay, here we go.
I respect all actors and actresses, but it ain't no way because I done had to play in front of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
I know my little heart, and I know his heart, and it's hard out here. Ain't no way. Like, I bet it would be extremely difficult
Right.
to not break character. That's my disclaimer. That don't mean, like, I done been in a few flicks, you know what I'm saying? But the way some of this be looking, Queen.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it looks so different. When you see it, they got the music going and it look like they just rolling around in the bed and it's all just, but in reality, it's like 1, 2, and stop. Now go back. Okay, now slide your hand down to his knee. Okay, now arch your back, go back. And so it's shot differently than it ends up looking.
But there is a particular scene when he talk about Crystal where he literally had her up, like, and it looked real.
Right.
Like, they shot that thing.
So now I haven't seen
on that
scene, but yes, usually that's where the simulation is. Right. And it's just this. So really, like, if this is her leg,
okay.
if this is her legs, and this is the sugar wall, so it's this.
Sugar wall.
Is this?
It's this, right.
Okay.
So you're not really.
Let me ask you a question. Here's a trick question.
I know this is gonna be okay.
I mean, I'm asking what they asking. I got text messages in my phone. They were like, bro, you gotta ask this. Have y'all ever had a squirter?
Oh my God!
Because what? All right, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Okay. So no, I'm gonna go there. I ain't scared. So we're gonna talk about how I'm telling you, it's very broken up. It is not a continual action.
Okay.
So in the love-making space, most folk, it take a minute to get to that space and place. So by that time, we would have got my eucalyptus oil, or my lavender oil on my palm, and I'm like, okay, bring it in. So I've never had that experience.
Some seasoned vets out here, man. To the touch. There's some people to the touch, boy. It might go left.
Right. So, but I'm telling you, your mind, performance anxiety, even in intimacy is real.
For sure.
So when you have all of these eyeballs on you, it serves as a governor to that side of your psyche. Now, do you still get caught up in the moment? Yes. Is there spaces where the lines between the characters and the actors blur? Yes. That's why you see some of these people that end up marrying their co-stars that they played alongside of, because your emotions, your body, your all of that feel like this is very real. And like intimacy is that element of heightened vulnerability. How much more vulnerable can you be than in this space with 10, 12 people, with this person that you're not in a relationship with, and basically you're nude, very close to nude, if not nude, and you all have to trust each other to do this with care, to do it with compassion and respect, and make it believable. So all of the things that you see from how they're looking at the person and the panting and the kissing and all of that has to be real. And we do in acting what's called substitution or sexual fantasy. So that means Nevaina, as the actress, would be imagining my real life lover or partner in order to make the chemistry between me and this person that I just met when I came to set this morning very real as possible.
You thinking about somebody else while you were there? That's nasty work. You want me to tell you why?
You gotta get deep.
I bet a lot of people be on that type of time in their real
relationship, right? And see, that's where the intimacy coaching comes in, because I try to help couples. I work with the NFLPA, working with their players and their wives to create authentic connection. But we use some of these same exercises to pull them into more romantic spaces, to have true connection, all of those things. So it gets interesting at times to see how life imitates art and art can imitate life.
You definitely gonna have to dive into some of them tips now.
Yeah.
We gotta help our RM family
We
out.
got to help the people with the problems.
No, for sure. Quick question.
Yes.
What, like, for the position that you carry, how do you prep personally to be that safe space for them, but at the same time, even for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what work goes into that? Because even though it's work, right, it's just something for the people, the RM family. But I'm sure there are things in there that absolutely translate over into, you know, your real life, your personal space, and all of those things. So
Yes.
how do you prep to be this healthy, sexual, mentally, emotionally capable person?
Ooh, very good question. I take those. I
Oh
take
man,
that
I dug into my
description.
bag for that. Yeah.
So I've been a drama therapy specialist for over 18 years.
Okay.
And what is that? It is using theater techniques and drama exercises towards a therapeutic end to release, reframe, or empower, right? Now, in 2011, I experienced a hemorrhagic stroke.
Okay.
As a result of that, my entire left side, like, just disconnected from my body. So what I did in my own rehabilitation process was to do the same exercises that I do with my students. And one of those exercises is called Buildings and Bridges, where you imagine yourself standing either on a building or a bridge and you want to leap off. Because whatever difficulty in your life has brought you to the point where you just want it to stop. And you're having this conversation with the God of your understanding, the universe, the situation, whatever it may be. And the one rule is you can't jump. So no matter how distraught you get, you cannot leap off, right? And so what it does is it allows you to face your greatest fear, your deepest hurt, your widest pain, and release it all. Articulate what has happened, how you feel about it, what you want instead of this, right? And scream and yell and all of that. So I try to approach all of my work, be it speaking, coaching, coordinating, with that same sense of presence, where I go in, I do my own inventory. I demand of myself self-care, me time. I have intimate connection with my sacred space, my self space, and then those who are significant in my life. Not just a significant other, but my children, my, sibling, all of my relationships, I try to be as intimate and intentional as possible. So that helps me to reduce the dissonance between what I teach and preach versus what I do, right? So you have some people say, don't do as I say, not as you see. I try not to do that. I try to be as consistent as I can in my personal life so that then when I pour in my professional life, it's a pure pour. That also helps me to recover better because I don't have as much debris to get around. And there's just, how they say, something in the milk ain't clean. I try to keep my milk as clean as possible. So it helps everything to continue to flow. It helps me to release. It helps me to recover. And then I can help my clients do the same.
Amen. In the words of you, Queen, Ashe, right?
Ashe,
there we go.
indeed.
There we go. So more with her when we get back. My RM family. Man, it's been spicy up in here.
Ah, yeah.
All right, we'll see y'all in a minute.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So, Nevaina,
Yes.
let's pivot the conversation.
Okay.
I want to talk about how do you create true intimacy with your partner?
Okay, so intimacy can be physical, but it is stronger and deeper when you also add the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional. And usually that starts with communication. So I have a set of questions that I would give to some of my couples, and it may be as simple as, tell me about your earliest childhood memory and how did that make you feel, right? That question alone can give you so much insight into the blueprint of your character, of your partner, and their character that has been formed from when they were a child, right? Because in a psychological perspective, at about 5 years old, somewhere between 5 and 7, we decide, is the world cruel or is the world kind? And usually that first memory tells you what your view of the world is, right? So asking that kind of deep question creates intimacy. It creates vulnerability. It can invite trust. So that would be, I would say one of the places to start is that your conversations are intentional and they go deeper than surface. The other thing is breath creates intimacy. Just holding your partner and you all inhaling and exhaling together creates such a release, a receiving, and a connection that is amazing. Now that has a spiritual core to it, you know, ruach, you know that word. So whenever we share breath, we are literally sharing spirit. So when you do that with your partner, you create a rhythm and a connection.
Can you talk about, to what you were just saying, if you're, because I've seen clips where two people are like, you know, facing each other and, you know, they're holding, embracing each other, just saying, what do those breaths look like? Like, is it at the same time? Is it one person? You know what I mean?
No,
like,
it is both.
Okay.
So you inhale together. Usually it's in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you are fully touching. So as close as you can, chest to chest, arm to arm. And then with my clients also, I'll have them to inhale and squeeze, exhale and release each other, right? And then there's also the intention. So I will plant for them, this is your safe place. As you breathe and where you are in your lover's arms, this is a safe place. And I will say things like, I stand with you, I stand for you, and accept that as so. Now breathe that in, and they will inhale through their nose and exhale through the mouth, right?
Clothed or unclothed?
This, well, if you are in,
I'm just, because I mean, I would feel like if you're trying to really get underneath the hood, right?
Yes.
Sometimes, especially for my kings, you might get distracted because other parts have taken over the thought process versus being in the moment. That's why I asked that,
yes.
right?
So either or. So let's use husband and wife for lack of better words, right? So let's say a husband and wife want to enhance their intimacy and the wife feels like he only focuses on sex.
Correct.
So then you might want to do these exercises clothed. So then you remove the sexual part of it per se, and this is about the connection.
Right.
It is about being fully seen, made to feel safe, fully heard, right? Then you may have, let's say the husband, I know these are kind of stereotypical examples, but I find these frequently. The husband says, you know, it's just, I don't feel like she comes on to me and it's just not erotic enough. So,
which is a big deal for me.
Yeah,
right?
let's do this naked. Because men are visual,
Come on now.
right? So let's do both. Figure out, you know, we just make this a round robin. But I think that when you give yourself permission to discover, You start out with the idea that nothing is wrong, everything is all right. Then you can explore and shift it, change it, do it one way, then do it another way, right? And so even with the breath, you can do where you all breathe together. So your mouths are like this, and both of you breathe together that way, and you literally share breath. And then there's the other exercise where the couple is face to face and you're just looking into each other's eyes.
A lot of people can't do that.
Cannot. It can be the easiest
You want to break somebody
thing
down? Eye contact.
or the hardest thing.
Absolutely.
Right. I remember I did this one and the guy says, you know, I was married to my ex-wife 9 years. I never looked in her eyes like this. I said, well, maybe if you had, she wouldn't be your ex, right? Because there is a truth to the idea that the eyes are the windows to the soul.
Absolutely.
And so you can do that either clothed or naked as well, where you're just sitting in front of your lover and just looking into each other's eyes.
And it's so crazy because a person can be naked and be fine. But when you get a stare or a gaze and they're like, why are you looking at me like that?
Right.
What you mean? I'm in this moment, I'm being present. Oh no, don't do it. We sitting. You got your cheeks right out, like everything else.
But you're fine.
But you don't want me to.
Right.
You gotta make that make sense, right?
Well, and I had a situation on set. So I'm working with 3 different couples on the same series.
Okay.
And this was my very first IC job. So I wasn't even really clear as to the kind of advocacy position of intimacy coordinator. So I came in more like an intimacy coach. I'm thinking they want me to, you know, make the couples look real and blah, blah, blah. So I had some of them doing the breathing exercises and the looking into the eyes and all of that. So it worked wonderfully with the first couple because their characters were supposed to be married. They had children. They're trying to spice up their love life. That's what the in the bed scene was.
Yeah.
And so the actors loved it. They were like, oh, this is amazing. I just feel connected and open and ready, right? Now, the second couple, I'm doing the same thing. Shoot, if it work, let's go again. And their dynamics as characters were, they are in a sexual relationship that they don't want anybody else to know about, because she is technically his boss. So they're kind of sneaking, right? I also was not aware that the real life actress was going through a divorce or a breakup. Let's call it breakup because I don't know if they were married. So I have them in the bed and they're looking in each other's eyes and she starts crying. Right? And she's like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. Why am I leaking? But it still worked so wonderfully because her scene partner was so compassionate and so present for her that the scene still turned out lovely, right? But I had that kind of moment of adjustment, and it speaks to how vulnerable we can feel by somebody just looking into our eyes. Third couple. Let's do the same thing. Now, this couple is supposed to have met at the club. We're going to smoke a little smoke, drink a little drink, roll around. So I start with the whole, okay, look into the eye. And this actress like, I can't do that. I just want to do what we doing. And baby, she could grab his head and tongue him and flip around and all of that with ease. But any of the other parts of it just made it feel somehow move out of acting into being and to real, right? So that one example just showed me how intimacy is such a gradated thing and how our own experiences, traumas, expectations, boundaries can really affect the way that we show up for ourselves, for others, and in relationship. That's why relationships matter. It's so important because, you know, it can be tough terrain to navigate, and very, very different for each individual person.
All right. So when you think about the term inner drama, can you define it and can you talk about how it shows up in our lives?
Okay, now these catchphrases are different. So inner drama for my understanding of it is the conversation in our head, how we talk to ourselves and the narratives that we create about experiences, right? So it's not so much about what happens to you, it's what story you tell yourself about what's happening to you. And that creates resistance, offense. It debilitates your ability to forgive and recover. So it's all of the inside chatter, almost like, what's that popular animated movie, Inside Out? You know how all of her emotions are having like the conversation inside of her. That is what that can look like, right? And that's one reason why it is good to go to therapy, to have someone to talk these things out outside of your own head. Because inside your head, it can become, you can make a mountain out of a molehill. You can misconstrue a thing and it becomes truth for you.
Right.
And then all of your responses, reactions are based on that. So it's almost like when you lay tile and you don't start flush. By the time you get to the other side of the room, that whole thing is just lopsided. So when we can change the conversation in our heads to be more truthful and to have more intention around them, then we can cut down the inner drama. Yes. So if you can create a more healthy conversation inside your head, it is going to both by default and naturally create healthier responses and reactions to things.
So let me ask you this. How do you, because when we create a narrative, because we all have our own narrative based on life experiences, right? We see situations through the lenses of our experiences. Like, how do you come from up under that biased, perspective and see it for what it really is?
So a few different ways. There's I think it was Gandhi who said, if you change the way you see things, the things you see will change. And there's also the 4 agreements, one of which is don't take it personally. Those things require a certain level of discipline for yourself. You just have to choose to see this another way, right? Because you can get so used to what you're used to that anything else seems foreign. The other part of that is self-discovery, because the more that you know yourself, the more clear you become, the more confident you become. So then the less you are open to offense or you're open to taking things personally, because you are just so full in and of yourself. So like when they say hurt people, a healed person can respond to the other person's pain. When you are unhealed, I don't care if you hurt me. You hurt me, I hurt you worse.
Wow.
So that then empowers us to take care of self first, and then you can accept the apology that you may never get, because you recognize that forgiveness is the healthier response. Yeah. So
that's powerful. Great question. I'm glad y'all touched on that. I wanted to go back to something which is still in line with where we are now at this moment, because you talked about the debris. And in the line of work that you do, right, which it still helps people in their personal life, but what are examples of debris that are not as obvious in doing the work that you do, that you can help the RM family kind of recognize at home?
So I put this in the context of intimacy, because I like to call some things are intimacy inhibitors or intimacy interrupters. Inhibitors fall in line with the inner drama. Those are your own personal character traits, traumas, struggles that keep you from being intimate. And it can be as subtle as eye contact. People who have experienced, let's say, molestation in their youth can find it difficult to look people in the eyes even in their adulthood, right? It can be as subtle as you don't ask for what you want or need, you just take whatever someone gives you. And you don't even realize you're doing that because you've gotten so used to just making the best out of whatever somebody presents. Then we have intimacy interrupters. Those are the things outside of yourself that stifle your intimacy or cause you to feel that it's out of place or too much, you're too clingy or too needy because the person that you partnered with hasn't dealt with their intimacy inhibitors. So now they're not open to that kind of affection or attention. And that causes you to then second guess how you're showing up in the situation. Right? Or it could just be you're matched with a person who's a taker and you're a giver. And now that imbalance creates suspicion, it creates resentment, a lack of fulfillment, all of those kinds of things. And it can show up as subtly as you are constantly irritated and you don't even know why. You just feel angry, you're short and curt. You don't have patience with anything. And it would take peeling back all of those layers to finally discover that you're feeling taken for granted in your relationship. There was a study, and I think it was either Cambridge or Harvard, but they bring in, let's say, 100 people. And these people are similar in terms of how much money they earn, their age, their health. All of these things, they fall right along the same line. The difference between the groups was one group had healthy relationships, loving romantic relationships. The other either had toxic relationships or no relationship. And across the board, the group that was in what they perceived to be a loving relationship said that their lives were better, that they were more successful, they were happier, they were doing well and winning versus the other group. Whereas the facts of it didn't reflect that. But their perception of life was so enhanced by their significant romantic relationship space, right? So that's a way that that kind of lack of intimacy, lack of connection, not really having a fulfilling relationship can show up in every area of your life. You're feeling like, oh, woe is me, or life is bad, or I got to do more, man, this is awful. And then that certain some he or some she come in, and then all of a sudden life is possible. I'm getting it. Da, 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 da. And we just don't even realize how our mood can be so affected by our relationship status or the health or lack thereof of our relationships.
So when we get back, let's talk about the mood and how many people, in the words of Miss Scott, live vicariously through their relationships with their person.
Okay.
Get you to dive into that when we get back. Relationships matter.
Relationships matter.
What's going on, RM family? And we are back. So before the break, I was asking you, to break down or help us decipher through the personal work and the importance of that versus, and I quoted Miss Scott here, versus living vicariously through the relationship, the person, the partner, or whatever,
Right.
Being in that space because, I feel like that's like half of the battle for most people. You know what I mean? Like they don't really know who they are. They're not putting in that type of work, and they've been used to the performance. So when they're dating, when they're meeting people, it's like, let me see what's gonna continue to give me the yeses. I don't want to challenge this person in any type of way. I want it to be smooth, and that's not real. So I don't want to be long-winded. I'm gonna go ahead and pass that mic on off because you have been blessing us throughout this whole conversation. So.
You know, I think as I'm listening to your question, what comes to my mind is to thine own self be true. And unfortunately, the landscape of intimacy in humanity as a whole is bad. We don't care about each other as we have in times past. We've become more informed, but less wise. Right? We've got greater access to people's what they do and who they do it with, but less connected, really, right? So it is easy to be attached to your relationship because so much of life is about presentation or how it looks on the outside. It's not as much focus put on what's going on the inside. And so it means that you have to really defy social culture to deal with yourself in a truthful way, to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be wrong, to get into the ugly of yourself and not have to keep that picture perfect face on or always look strong or always got it together or I'm gonna get you before you get me. Whatever these different little modes of operation are in terms of the way we deal with relationship, right? So if we would change the way we look at relationship so that it is, I want to bring the healthiest person that I can into this situation. That may be an outside motivator, but it still gives you a demand on yourself. Whereas many times people come into relationships saying, I want to get as much out of it as I can. Or I need this to, like, for example, you've got a whole movement around women who, and Chanel's one, who've never been married, never had children, and they desire a relationship. That is a very noble human desire. We are built to be in relationship, in connection. And so there has to be intention around becoming what you want to find first. And the pursuit of self in that journey, you get so excited about it, so fulfilled from it, that then you become a magnet for what you want. But what's the resistance in that? The statistics, your relationship experience, the pool of candidates or what have you. So that means that you can't allow yourself to be swept into all of that. You have to keep your eyes on the prize and keep possibility in front of you. And how do you do that? Through self-discovery work, through finding what brings you joy and doing it, through other relationships with family and friends that are not romantic relationships. If we broaden the table about what intimacy means, then we can find fulfillment in other spaces by having genuine, close connections that are not romantic, not sexual, but they are full, they are truthful, they have reciprocity, right? For me, my tribe of girlfriends is thick and real. And we get together, we pray, we cry, we eat, all of that. So I don't feel like that romantic relationship is as essential or as much of a lifeline, because my life is very full with love, connection, with I can count on them, they can count on me. And that would be what I would say is a place to start. And you don't have to do it by yourself.
So when you talk about selfless, right? I thought of selfless love. What would be a top point for you?
For selfless love.
Yes.
Maybe you can define what that means.
For me, right?
Yes.
It makes me think about like empathy. It makes me think about sacrifice.
Gotcha. Okay,
for me.
so with that frame,
that thought,
I remember a husband and wife one time, they said, we try to outdo each other in pleasing one another, in surprising one another, in affirming one another. And that it was a beautiful blueprint. If you're really in a space where you know that other person is trying to love you more and you are trying to love them more
than they love
whatever
you.
that means, that thing there that's a seesaw that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it is, I think it is possible, communication, trust, attraction, chemistry. And for me, it's about having a sacred calling to it. When there's a higher power greater than yourself that is in the center of the coming together, I think selflessness becomes the go-to instead of the last option.
Yeah, because it's serving. Like there was a clip, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but I posted it on my story, and this lady was like sitting on the couch and she just started saying to her husband, he was in the back, I guess he was a little frustrated, I don't know what was going on, but she was like, because of you, I'm able to have the phone that I have. Because of you, we have this house. I'm talking about when I tell you she poured, I said, baby, me and you was talking to me too, because like, it was so beautiful though, and I've seen moments where men pour into their wives the same way. I'm just saying, for example, if we can get into a place and space where we have people who view their partners that way and make it more about like, it's just like a foundation. If you're doing work for others, how that makes you feel. Like how you're full at the end of it, because it's like, man, like I really had the chance to put a smile on somebody else's face. It wasn't about you. And when we talk about relationship, if we're really being genuine in our effort, there's no expectation, no nothing that comes with that. It's just an act. And you're loving freely. There's so much power in that freedom. You know what I mean? Now I'm taking pages out of your book, but there's so much power in that freedom. But I had that thought just listening to you, and that's what kind of sparked the question prior to, because selflessness, self-love, self-awareness, but these things are powerful if used properly.
I think if you have two intentional people, if I'm loving you, right? I'm loving selflessly. My concern is loving you properly. But then the other person has to say the same thing. I'm going to love you properly. Like I'm going to love selflessly, and then we're both equally pouring into each other. But when you have one side that's pouring, and then the other side is not being poured into, that's where you get that whole idea of the mood change. You know what I'm saying? And then in terms of living, you said, living vicariously. A lot of times people are not even aware. I know that's something that I am guilty of, have done in the past, is live vicariously through my friendships, through my relationships, because I wasn't really clear on who Chanel was. But when I got clear on that, then I cut that out. But then it looked like, well, now it's about you. No, I'm loving me, because when you live vicariously and attach your value to someone else, it's almost like you see more value in them than you do in yourself.
Right.
So then you don't even love yourself. And I said this before on a show that I did. When someone says, you know, do you love yourself? You instinctively say yes. If you would have ever asked me that question at any point in my life, I would say yes. But when I look back at my decisions, and when I look back at how I've allowed other people to treat me, mishandle me, then I absolutely did not love myself. But you couldn't tell me that then.
At the time.
But
right.
the greatest measuring stick is look at how you allow other people to treat you. And then you will have the answer to your question.
Right. I think that, who is it? Lisa Nichols says, you are the first example to the world of how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that we treat ourselves does set the bar as to what we will tolerate, celebrate,
Right.
and gravitate towards in our own relationships. So oftentimes, like, people being mistreated is not so much usury or because that person is a bad person or is there any malice. It's really that they don't know what
Right.
healthy love, healthy support, generosity, kindness. Some people have not experienced true kindness in their lives, where someone does something for you just because.
Right.
And wanting nothing in return, as you spoke about. And many times people have come from life experiences where every act is attached to something,
Right.
right? So they don't know any different. But when you begin to engage yourself with soul care, with affirmations and kindness, with words that speak life into self. You know how many people, they'll do something, oh gosh, Nevaina, you're so stupid. Why you do that? Why would you talk to yourself that way? But changing your own conversation to yourself will begin to attract people who speak life into you. Right?
Then it's just unlearning that behavior of always pouring. Like, if that's all I've ever shown, then that's all you ever know. And so then I get upset because you're not loving me the way that I want to be loved, but that's all I've ever shown you.
And have you asked for what you want and what you need?
Right.
Sometimes we try to make people into mind readers and think, just because I do this for you, you gonna do this for me.
Right.
But people don't love the same way. They don't show up the same way. And so there is benefit in making the request, right? So, like, I don't know, for example, the let's use wife and husband because that's the best thing. So the wife has the husband's food done when he gets home. That is her love language to him. He sits down, he thinks that eating all of it says, I appreciate you for cooking it, because I cleaned my plate.
Right.
But what she really wanted was for him to say, thank you, baby, this food is good, right? And so she gets upset because he ain't say the food is good and he ain't even say thank you. And I done blah, 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 blah. So where can we manage that? Babe, is it good? And he said, yeah, you see, I ate it all. But it'll just make me feel good if you tell me how good it is. Then it becomes a request instead of mind reading, right? But those simple things, those tiny foxes, begin to deteriorate the relationship, and it creates a partition instead of building a bridge.
And there's some free game, because I'm glad you did it that way, because I feel like a lot of women, if they understood how to talk to their man in regards to wanting something or this thing, like how powerful that is versus, and again, I understand that she can be upset because she felt like it wasn't handled properly. But that is how you take your power back. by doing it in the manner that you just did it. So I just wanted to speak to that because there are a lot of women that are in that position. There are a lot of men that are in a position too where they want something to be done and just being able to articulate it properly. So didn't want to forget that. But you have been amazing. Shameless plug. Y'all see the pillow. You did. Relationships Matter Family. But gotta ask you a good old question.
Oh, goodness.
As we bring this thing to a close.
Okay.
All right. Now, part of our card game that we got popping that is out, drop. Y'all go get that thing. Define sexual compatibility in a relationship.
I come, he come, we come. Nah.
And we go straight like that. There you go. My RM family, this has been a lovely, kinky, healthy, beautiful conversation.
OMG.
We appreciate Miss Nevaina for pulling up and blessing her with your presence. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us access to the family. And we appreciate
Thank you for having me.
We got to do a
my
part
cousin,
two.
y'all.
I'm telling y'all something. But listen, relationships matter. We'll see y'all next time. As Chanel said at the beginning, we're going to end it. Like, share, subscribe. Gone.
Relationships matter.